The debate of should lolicon exist or not is a hot topic in the anime and art community, and I woke up one morning with a question on my mind. Should lolicon be illegal? So I booted up Audacity and here we are. Also, keep in mind this video serves as my thought process of forming my own opinion and presenting a question. This is not me telling you what you should and shouldn't be allowed to think. I don't think I'm some internet hero informing the public on problematic shit and acts like a YouTube video is gonna change society, because it's not. I'm just a senior with a microphone and an internet connection telling you what's on his mind, because no one in his life cares or has knowledgeable interest on what I want to blabber about, leading me to create this series. Now, when I mention lolis or lolicon, I'm specifically talking about the ones like Anya and Kana, not characters who are canonically teenagers, like the characters from My Hero, Asuka, Octavia, or that Cyberpunk girl from that anime I have yet to watch. The reason why I'm distinguishing those two, simply because their age isn't really meant to be the appeal of the character. For example, I assume you like Raven simply because of her gothic and apathetic personality and her dynamic with the rest of the team, along with her design. And you get so caught up in these different aspects of her that you genuinely forget that she's 16 in the show and one of the youngest members. Basically, what I'm saying is with these characters, their age is not the appeal. But Loli, on the other hand, the main appeal of Loli is their age. The main reason you fab to them is because they have characteristics of a child. If that's not the reason, then what is the sexual appeal of it? There are many arguments about this topic, but here are the two main ones in support and against lolicon. The ones who are against lolicon, they argue it endangers actual children and it normalizes predatory behavior. And the two main ones in support of lolicon argue for artistic freedom and it provides an outlet for predatory urges. I think the best way to go about this is to look at the arguments on both sides and see where they're coming from. And towards the end, I will form my own opinion on where I stand on the subject. Let's start with the ones in support. One of the main arguments in support of lolicon is that it gives real predators an outlet. This mentality comes from the same mentality of giving predators sex dolls to release their sexual frustration on. Now, this may sound good on paper, but when you actually think about it, all it does is just make predators feel more validated to have those feelings and thoughts and be less likely to seek help. When you think of treatment for pedophiles, I think the last thing you would want them to do is give them something that activates those urges to offend. So the argument of providing an outlet is complete bullshit because it only tells them that they're valid to have those urges. It's like the old saying, it's either go to therapy or go to jail. There is no gray area in this situation. The next argument in support of lolicon, and one of the most commonly used arguments, is the argument of artistic freedom. This argument is self-explanatory. Basically, it's saying that artists should be free to depict whatever they want regardless of how disturbing it is because it's fiction. You often see this argument whenever this topic is brought up to a point where it's become a straw man to avoid criticism. And you often see this if you're a frequent viewer of Rev or Hero Hey. No shade on these people, by the way. Their content is pretty entertaining. They be dunking on some pretty stupid tweets. At its surface, it seems like a pretty good argument. Art should not be censored, which I agree. A lot of art has value, and there's no denying that. Even stories like Lolita, which has very graphic scenes of child sexual abuse, but despite how disturbing those scenes may be, it serves a narrative purpose, giving it literary value, making it art. But it's an entirely different story when the art depicted only serves as a way of getting around committing an actual crime. Because when you think about it, what is the purpose of lolicon? What value does it have? Who is it for? And what would the art community lose if it gets banned? Because as far as I know, there is no reason for lolicon on its own to exist. It serves no value other than to be diet CP. I'm now going to move on to the arguments against it. The most prominent argument against lolicon is that it harms real children. Whenever this argument is brought up, it's often met with, how can a drawing harm real children? And can you not distinguish fiction from reality? This mentality comes from the failure to distinguish between direct and indirect harm. While the drawing itself is harmless, it's the people that it's marketed to that they're worried about, or at least the rational ones who don't spend their entire lives on Twitter. Like I said before, lolicon only serves to validate people with predatory urges, and with that validation, they fear that eventually one of those consumers will eventually move on to real children. And I think a good way to support this reasoning is to look at how pornography affects the brain. When you're masturbating to pornography, you're conditioning your brain to be attracted to that specific subject you're masturbating to. And as you consume more of that pornography, you become more desensitized and begin to seek out more extreme pornography. And the fear is that the more lolicon that these people consume, the more extreme their tastes become, and eventually it'll get to a point where they move on from drawings and begin to crave the real thing. I believe that's what these people mean when they say it harms real children. Not that they care about the drawing itself, although some may do, but most of these people are concerned with how it will increase a person's desire to consume more of that content to a point of harm. Because like I said before, who is lolicon marketed to? But that's not the only harm that it can cause. You often hear the term normalized a lot in these discussions, but what do they mean by it? Basically, these people fear that by allowing these images to be accepted as a normal thing, it leaves open a gateway into pedophilia being accepted. Now, obviously, pedophilia will never be seen as a socially acceptable thing, no matter how many maps there are on Twitter. Like I said before, go to therapy or go to jail. Those are your only two options. But I do feel like that there is some truth to this, but not in the way that they describe. I believe the normalization aspect of it comes in the form of grooming. It is believed that predators could use these images to convince young children that sexual relationships with adults is a normal thing, which leaves them open to being groomed and sharing indecent content. There is this art commentary YouTuber by the name of Duchess Celestia who also made a great video on this topic. She also made a video talking about how she was groomed and how the predator used lolicon to justify their inappropriate relationship, and I suggest you check out both videos. That is the last time you will ever hear me bring up someone from that god-awful community. But now for the big question. Should lolicon be outlawed? Yes, it should. I don't really see many reasons for why it should say. Like I said, what is the purpose for lolicon? Who is it for? It provides no artistic value, and it only serves to validate predatory urges, and can serve as a tool for predators to lure in victims. We lose nothing of value if this type of hentai gets banned. And freedom of expression does not work in this context because again, who is this art marketed to, and what purpose does it serve, aside from making predators feel comfortable with themselves and feel justified to have their feelings? And to the people who get off from this type of content, my question for you is, why? Why do you find these childlike archetypes sexually attractive? Do you think lolicon serves value? If so, why? And what would the art community lose if it gets banned? But that's all I really have to say. Keep in mind, this is not me telling you what you should and shouldn't fap to. I can't control what you do, and I really don't care. I just find this topic interesting. Bye.